I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. You know, whether or not you live in Multnomah County, the action taken by the county board today could really have a direct impact on you. It's yet another effort to direct tens of millions of taxpayer dollars towards possible solutions to the homeless crisis. And because of that, yep, it's our big story tonight. The vote today with the county commission was months in the making and not without controversy pretty much every step of the way. Before we get to all the fiery back and forth from today's meeting, let's break down where some of the $62.5 million are going. Remember, more than $50 million of those dollars came from the supportive housing services tax. It's extra money the county did not expect but is pleased to get. The remaining $11 million plus comes from federal funding. The vote on the plan today was 4-1, with Commissioner Sharon Myron the lone no vote, as she often is. The biggest chunk of money is $16 million to fund 200 beds at the City of Portland's next two mass outdoor sanctioned campsites. The first opened this summer in Southeast and currently has about 135 people living there. A little over $10 million is going towards rent assistance and legal defense services for people facing eviction. More than $9 million for people currently in temporary shelter in the form of housing navigation and assistance. That's meant to free up shelter space, by the way. $7 million towards recovery-focused, transitional, and permanent supportive housing, including for people with mental health and addiction disorders. And here's the big one we talked about yesterday, nearly $7 million for what's being called a 24/7 stabilization center. It's basically a short-term place for people in crisis, whether due to substance or mental health. It's not a sobering center, though. Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson says she wants the stabilization center to include a drop-off section with at least 8 beds that could be used for a sobering section. So we'll see. Commissioners approved another $150,000 to support and design the planning work for that sobering section. Now, more than $3 million is going to day centers like Blanchet House and Rosehaven. Bobby Lake's Hope Center is getting another $1.25 million to keep at least 175 beds open beyond the end of the year. Nearly $250,000 will go towards new lighting under the county-owned bridges on the Central East Side, and $200,000 is going to fund the downtown expansion of the Clean and Safe program. So, yeah, there's a lot there, a lot of numbers, but we know that you love that, and so we'll give you all that detail. Those are the highlights. Our Blair Best was inside the contentious meeting this morning. The tension between commissioners was certainly on full display, especially between Commissioner Sharon Myron, who tried to present her own plan, and Chair Jessica Vega-Peterson, who was not having it. Blair and I got together this afternoon to talk about it. I'm here with Blair now, and wow, tension's kind of high there today.
Very much so. It almost seems like every time the commissioners meet to discuss any sort of funding related to homelessness, the tensions really boil over. And we see it primarily with Commissioner Myron and the chair, but I can tell you from being there today, not a single one of the commissioners was 100% pleased with this spending plan.
Interesting. All right. Yeah. And one of the cool things about this show is that while you're there and you feel it, the audience doesn't get to be there.
Right.
But we do have the time where we can give you some extended clips, and so that's what we're going to do right now. Check it out.
Sadly, I know what the vote's going to be here. It's predetermined. The slate of amendments that will pass pretends it's kind of relevant to a plan, but it's not. It is a poster child for investing massive amounts of money with terms that are vaguer than ever before. I'm curious, just in terms of even visiting some of these places that the county is involved in, if the chair has personally visited the BHRC over the past couple of months. It is closer than Portugal, I will say. I look at the behavioral health aspect of this proposal, and it's like someone opened a Cliff Notes of behavioral health, threw a bunch of buzzwords together to write an essay at the last minute because it was overdue, and hoped the teacher wouldn't notice that they just read the Cliff Notes. The problem here is we're talking about lives. I don't have anything to gain or lose. I just don't. So I'll say it again. I am disgusted by this proposal. So rather than continue, go through item by item through this exercise that I found over the years to be sophomoric and exasperating, leaving me angry and frustrated and with an elevated blood pressure, when we have such an opportunity to make a difference with so much money and we're squandering it, I'm going to put out an alternative approach. So I'm just going to use a little easel and put it out And
Commissioner Myron,
Yeah.
we're not gonna, this is just for board comments. It's not for sharing
these are
things.
my board comments.
So we're not doing a display. We actually have we still have Commissioner Brim Edwards.
If anyone wants to see it, they can see it, and I'll post it. And it will be right here. It's a display of the system.
Okay.
And I will, wow, in this display that I'm not allowed to show, apparently, you invest the resources where they fit in to meet the need. The county's been saying it's implementing Built for Zero.
I apologize, but I am going to have to catch a flight within like 5 minutes.
Okay. So
And I would like to finish my comments. If you want to vote and then I can finish my comments, that's fine. I know what the vote will be, but I'd like to finish my comments.
okay, we'll give you time afterwards. I do want to
Okay,
respect the
absolutely.
fact that Commissioner Stegman, and we did have a hard stop. Commissioner Brim Edwards, would you like to provide your comments?
Well, I'm not sure I'm going to be done in the 5 minutes.
Okay, so at this point, Commissioner Stegman voted before everyone else, logged off the Zoom, and then she had to leave to catch a plane.
And where is she? What is she doing?
So she's actually in Texas looking at how they handle the homeless crisis there. And she's very excited to come back and share that with the board.
Okay.
So then after all of that, the chair gave the floor back to Commissioner Myron so she could finish off her final comments.
This can make some politicians look good in the short term. And it will look good when they point to the list of the things they voted to invest in for their next political effort. But it will not change our systems. It will not move the dial. And so $60 million more will go down the drain.
Thank you. Commissioner Brim Edwards, I'm going to have you go in a second, but I will just say, Commissioner Myron, you are very out of line in impugning the motives of our partners, our staff, and the members of this board. So your comments are completely out of line. They are not something that would have been acceptable as we have conversations in the legislature and people are making comments. You are never allowed to impugn the motives of your colleagues, and I'm not going to stand for it here. So I'm just setting that boundary really quickly. I did that with Commissioner Brim Edwards when she made a comment that lended in that direction and earlier. So there has to be respect, and you don't know why people are voting for things except for what they say. So to say that your colleagues are not taking the issue of homelessness seriously,
I didn't say
yes,
that.
you did.
No, I didn't.
You did. It was in your comments. I wrote it
wasn't.
down. You did, and all I'm saying is, regardless of what you think you said, what we heard was your take on what people motives are, but that is not reflective of the statements that people have made. That is not reflective of the actions that people have taken here, and it's not appropriate. And I'm telling you this now because I'm not going to allow you to continue to make comments like that in the future.
So I'm not sure
thank
what
you.
the exact
Commissioner
comments
Breder.
are, but we can talk about them later if you'd like to have a conversation about it.
Commissioner Brim Edwards, please go ahead.
That was warm and fuzzy, wasn't it? Not exactly. All right, so here's my opinion on all this. The leaders of Multnomah County, they don't really need to love each other. They don't even need to like each other, and it seems pretty clear they don't. But they should find a way to respect each other so the public's business can get done. Now, I don't follow the county commissioner closely, so I don't know how long that ill will between the chair, Vega Peterson, and Commissioner Myron has been going on, but it seems like it's hit a new high recently. Last October, Willamette Week had both in for an interview to decide who they should endorse. The two were taking verbal shots at each other back then. Myron saying the joint office would not answer her questions. Vega Peterson saying the problem was not the joint office, but Myron's ability to get answers. So, yeah, kind of chilly even back then. Vega Peterson beat Myron in the most recent election to become the county chair. That is a powerful position with wide latitude when drawing up the county budget. Nearly a year later now, Myron and Vega Peterson still going at it. We're starting to see it in public, as Blair pointed out, but it's not just in public, not just trying to get headlines, for example. Yesterday, when I interviewed Commissioner Myron about her insistence that the county pay for a sobering center, Myron lashed out at Vega Peterson, who did not include that center in her latest spending plan ahead of today.
I honestly don't get it. It is ludicrous that after an entire process focusing on finding an alternative place for people to go other than ERs or jail, when they are intoxicated by alcohol or other substances. She has ended up with a proposal that does nothing of the kind. I think it shows the depth of her lack of understanding of our behavioral health system.
Myron wanted to have $15 million set aside for a sobering center, but that did not happen. Now, look, I'm not saying it's bad for the Commissioner Myron to challenge the chair. In fact, frankly, I think it's good. Myron is the opposition. She's the one who refuses to go along with the majority. And in my opinion, she often raises excellent points. But I'm not quite sure where all this is leading, where all this ill will is going to get us to. Now, I do know that a lot of you who are watching our show are in the political world. And if you know what's really going on behind the scenes, fill me in, will you? In the meantime, feel free to let us know about what you think about all this, even if you're not an insider. You could email us. The address is thestory@kgw.com, or call and leave the team a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Let's hope the $60 million infusion will lead to results. Coming up next on The Story, the original Green New Deal made all kinds of waves in Congress without passing. But nonetheless, today student organizers launched a new campaign with a Green New Deal of their own for schools. They held a sit-in at the Capitol, resulting in several arrests. And our environmental reporter, Cale Williams, heard from Portland students who are part of that campaign. He'll explain what they want when The Story returns. Student organizers across the country, including right here in Portland, kicked off a new climate campaign today. It comes the same day that members of Congress introduced a new bill called the Green New Deal for Public Schools Act. Their bill would invest $1.6 trillion over the next 10 years to revitalize the K through 12 education system and upgrade every public school building in the country. The students want a more robust climate curriculum, training for green jobs, and climate disaster response plans. Environmental reporter Cale Williams explains.
Portland Public Schools has one of the most progressive climate policies in the country, but according to Ada Crandall,
it's not enough.
A 17-year-old graduate of Grant High in Portland, Crandall was one of roughly 150 young people who went to Washington, D.C. on Thursday to kick off the Green New Deal for Schools campaign. Crandall said that as the impacts of climate change have come into sharper focus, she's been dismayed to see conservative lawmakers taking aim at the education system.
So the Green New Deal for Schools campaign is really in a lot of ways in response to the attacks that the far right is making on our schools, trying to regulate our curriculum, trying to ban books.
The organizers released a list of 5 demands. They want school buildings to be run on renewable energy and for schools to provide free and healthy lunches to all students. They also want training for green jobs, a stronger climate component in school curriculums, and for school districts to develop disaster plans for extreme weather events made worse by climate change. Now, some of those policies are already in place through Portland Public Schools' climate response policy. But Crandall said even with one of the strongest climate responses in the nation, PPS still has a long way to go.
The bar for being the strongest climate crisis response policy in the country was very, very low. We are calling on them to go farther and pass an actual Green New Deal for Portland Public Schools.
Kat Davis, advisor for climate justice with Portland Public Schools, said the district fully supports the Green New Deal campaign and that the district doesn't see its climate policy as an end goal, but as a starting point from which to expand.
And so we're really eager to take our policy, which is really our baseline for how we want to move forward, and deeply engage with critical questions around what it looks like to have a future of climate solutions for our students.
And the organizers, they have some powerful allies. On Thursday, House Representative Jamal Bowman of New York and Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts introduced the Green New Deal for Schools Act.
Why are you getting arrested today?
As they did, Crandall and other organizers took to the Capitol. Some of them lobbying lawmakers and others staging a sit-in at House Speaker Kevin McCarthy's office, where 18 of them were arrested. Crandall said they're hoping action at local school districts will create momentum for the federal legislation.
The federal government is the only entity that has the resources to stop this crisis at the speed and scale that we need. We need people at every level of government in every generation to be doing everything that they can to reduce our emissions and stop the climate crisis.
Cale Williams, KGW News.
Thanks, Cale. This next story concerns the city of Portland and 2 problems here that we report on week after week after week after week after week, it feels like. They are fentanyl and deadly violence. One of the issues is getting remarkably worse, while data shows some promising signs for decline on the other one. The saying goes, I got good news, I got bad news. Which one do you want first? All right, in this case, I've got horrible news and then encouraging news about a horrible problem. All right, here we go. Let's take a look at a new information released this morning by Portland Police. Since the middle of June, 10 kids under the age of 18 have overdosed and half of them have died. Fentanyl is suspected in 9 of the 10 cases. Police believe the drug is to blame for all 5 of the deaths. How do those numbers compare to the past? Well, they're astronomically high. In the past 3 years combined, Portland Police investigated 9 juvenile overdose cases. We've had 10 in the past 3.5 months. Police are not releasing the names of the children who died, but perhaps a look at their ages is going to help hammer this home for you. On June 19th, a 2-year-old died from a suspected fentanyl overdose. August 10th, a 15-year-old. August 24th, a 1-year-old. September 14th, a 5-year-old. And just 8 days ago, another 15-year-old. These are children, from infants to teens. So if you ever think that fentanyl is not that dangerous, or perhaps you or someone you know is using the drug, you are putting yourself and the people around you, children included, in grave danger. Portland police say their narcotics unit is investigating all of these recent suspected overdoses, for what it's worth. But come on, no amount of investigating is going to bring these kids back to life. The drug should not have been accessible to them in the first place. So that's the horrible news I mentioned earlier. Now, let's move on to the encouraging news about another horrible problem. That's deadly violence in our city. And for this segment, our colleagues at the Oregonian crunched the numbers, and we think their coverage is definitely worth your time. It comes from reporter Catalina Gaitan. Portland sees longest streak with no homicides in years. Numbers plummet. This is a subscriber article, meaning it's behind a paywall, so we're not going to give you all of the great details, but enough to encourage you to subscribe because you should. They do great work. This morning's homicide in Southeast was the first since August 28th. That's a stretch of 30 days with no killings in the city. It marked the 54th homicide this year. That's down from last year at this time, 2022. 72 people had been killed. It's no secret that Portland's homicide numbers set grim records in the past 2 years, but here's a reminder. 92 people died in 2021 and 101 last year. Those crushed the previous high of 70 homicides way back in 1987. But here's an interesting note about those numbers. According to the Oregonian, the homicide rate today, well, it's still lower than it was back in '87 because of population growth. In the late 80s, the city had around 420,000 people. That population, coupled with 70 homicides, put the rate at 16.7 per 100,000 people. That's how you normalize it out. Now, the city's population currently is 635,000. If the current rate of homicides holds steady the rest of this year, the city is projected to have about 72 homicides total. That would put that rate at 11.1 per 100,000 people. That's remarkably lower than the 16.7 from the late 80s. So good context there, we think. The Oregonian article goes into greater detail with data on the last time the city saw 30 days without a murder, how non-fatal shootings this year compare to previous years, and how homicides compare to the years leading up to the pandemic. You should go check it out now, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, because, as we said, they do great work. We're not done yet here on The Story. After 11 seasons in Rip City, Damian Lillard will not be back at the Moda Center until the end of January, and he'll be in town on the visitors' side for the very first time. We'll share some of your thoughts on Lillard's trade to the Milwaukee Bucks when The Story returns. Well, before we go tonight, we wanted to share some of your thoughts on superstar Damian Lillard being traded from the Blazers to the Milwaukee Bucks. The majority of you are sad to see him go, but ready for Rip City to rebuild that's now officially underway.
Today's such a sad day to hear that Damian's leaving us, but it's not a sad day for him. This is the start of a brand new journey. I so much enjoyed watching him on the news and all that he's accomplished, and all the times I saw him going into schools and helping all the kids. What a fantastic guy this is. I just wish him all the best and whatever he does in his future, and may God bless him. Thank you, Damian. You're the best.
What a nice comment. On social media, we heard from several of you. Stash Glass wrote, I mean, I'm sad to see him go, but I'm very happy for him. He deserves a ring, and it sure isn't happening here anytime soon. Thanks for the years, Dame, and best of luck. One person on YouTube commented, knowing this was coming doesn't make it any easier to digest, and we have none but our lackadaisical ownership to blame. Never really tried to put together a seriously competitive team, and we all know it. In any event, consider me officially also done with my decades of fandom. How about this one from Michael? Happy for Dame to get away from a franchise that hasn't won a title in 46 years and won't for at the very least another 5. While most of you knew the trade was coming and are accepting it now that it's arrived, at least one viewer called in to tell us it's about time.
And on this Damian Lillard thing, I'm glad he's gone. He's been holding the Trailblazers back for way too long. Sure, he's good, but he's got to go. That's all I have to say. I'm glad he's gone.
All right, not mincing words. Well, we'll see what the future holds for Rip City. In the meantime, that's the end of our show. Thanks so much for watching, and remember the story, our collective story, that never ends. It just goes on and on. The good stuff is coming your way next, and in the meantime, I'll see you right back here tomorrow night.